Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. Today, I am honored to have Morgan Jones with me. Morgan is a phenomenal basketball player, but two things that we're going to highlight a little bit about her story is one, she's the founder of Athletes to Visionaries. And then second, she's also the founder of the Vision Box. And something that stood out to me is what is Morgan's goal? And it is to help young women and female athletes grow and learn who they are and above and beyond athletes, as people as well. So Morgan, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Phil.
Absolutely. So let's start with growing up. You have an older sister and you guys were both into sports at an early age. So talk a little bit about the dynamic of having an older sibling and having that competitive nature brought out of you.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I kind of always had a role model that I was looking towards. I still tell her till today, she's leading the way in so many ways. We joke about, the ways in which she made all the mistakes, then I came in and got it right after her. So we have finally found humor in that. But it's been an incredible gift to be able to have a sister who, really, like I said, paves the way and kind of set the foundation of hard work and, how we succeed and how we can be strong, powerful women. She went on and played Division I basketball, and she was the top 30 player in the country. She went to Northwestern University. So my standard of where I should be was pretty high. It was set pretty high early on.
Yes. Now with that, sometimes they can be your role model and you're looking up to them, but other times being the younger of three siblings, but my brother, we would compete. There was a lot of times where I just wanted to beat him. Right. So did that bring a competitive nature out in you, just having an older sister that you were kind of striving to, to look up to or, to become?
Consciously, no. My parents, I think, did a really good job at always making us, see each other as teammates, right? As partners, as, individuals, but, together we're here to just push each other forward. There's been moments where we have competitively really gone after each other. Yeah. My sister, she's told me sometimes that I'm soft. And then in practice, she'll make me feel like I'm soft. And there's been moments where we definitely have competed against one another. But, overall, my parents did a really good job at making sure that they, equally distributed like the love and the attention and their presence to both of us. So we never felt like we needed to compete against one another.
Got it. I love it. Now, as you're growing up, you start doing, I'd say, excelling above and beyond what typical athletes are excelling at. And you win a high school state championship. And then you also get named to be a McDonald's All-American, which is kind of like the, pinnacle of individual accolades, right? So talk a little bit about, your high school career and when you started to notice, all right, I'm better than good, right? Like I'm great.
Yes. So I was very fortunate. I grew up and my parents were my coaches. So my parents have always been my coaches. And so I was in the gym whether I wanted to or not. I was just one of like 200 girls that went on to play in college under my parents' organization. So I did a lot of watching and observing, as I was growing, and I played up a lot. So I very rarely played with my age group. So I really was never the best player on the floor. And I was always playing against like bigger and stronger players. So when I did get to the point in high school where things started to like level out, I had a really unique ability to be able to put the ball on the floor as a 6'2" guard. And so as that, it was like, to me, I like to say it's like when the whole KD thing, like now it's like tall guards is the thing. Yeah. I was on that wave of like it being really new, like a 6-foot person being able to dribble the ball. So I think that really kind of catapulted me into one of the top players in the country. And so going into high school, I was a top 30 player in the country. And then I remember like sitting down with my dad and I go, man, it would be amazing if I could become a top 10 player in the country by the time I graduated, high school. And he's like, if you set your mind to it, you could do it. You know that, right? And I'm like, yeah, just being a young kid, you're like, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And, you just kind of stay the course, you stay the path, you keep showing up. And I started getting invited to different events like the Nike Skills Camp and different places where they brought all the best players into one platform and allowed them to compete against each other. So in doing that, I went and I checked the rankings board on ESPN, and by my junior year, I was the number 9th player in the country. So I just got to that goal, but it was really rewarding because all of those things like the McDonald's All-American and being invited to the USA Olympics and things like that, all were just byproducts of that.
Absolutely. Now, that's all the fun part of it, but behind all of that is all of the effort, the sacrifices, right, to be able to get there, because there are thousands of, boys and girls that are going to say that same thing, but then the effort to actually get to that point might lack. So talk a little bit about things that you had to sacrifice and give up to be able to, achieve and accomplish at that level.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Phil, because it's like in the moment you don't even realize like you're making they're not conscious sacrifices.
Yeah.
Right. There are things that if your environment is right and your environment is conducive for your growth, you're going to grow. If you have people around you that believe in you, they're feeding that into you. You'll start to think you can do things that you never did before. So I really think that it comes down to like the people that are around you and how they're feeding your life with like which direction is best for you to go, because at that time you just don't know. There's just as much as there's good influences, there's bad influences as well. And being in high school, there was a lot of peer pressure. There was a lot of kids that were going that right way, or excuse me, I guess you say left way.
Yeah.
That I was challenged with, and I needed, and I had to make those very tough decisions of, do I skip school, right? Do I smoke the joint? Do I go to the party? Like there's real decisions you had to make. And I'm just grateful that I had the right people around me to pull me the right direction.
That's great. Now, something that you also mentioned was a comment your dad made, which stands out to you clearly, because you said, well, I said, man, it'd be cool to be top 10. He says, well, you could be. Talk about having people in your life that can believe in you, maybe before you even believe in yourself, or at least are supporting the idea that where you want to go, you can get there.
Wow. It's absolutely like a necessity. I think it's so important. It's part of like the work that I'm just like doing now, and that I try to instill in really anyone that comes across my path and has the space and the time and the courage to open up and share their goals and their vision with me. It's our job to speak into those goals, to speak into that vision. And so you really are, and I know it's so cliche, right? But you are really like the average of the people that you're around. Yeah. So always make sure and ensure that the people that you are around are feeding into you and adding value, and you're adding value back as well.
That's so good. Perfect. So we're graduating high school. We're moving on. Once again, your parents are not, I guess they're very aware of how the college recruiting process goes, right? And so you're making that decision while you're in high school, and there might be somebody that helps the recruiting process for you in the school you end up picking. So talk a little bit about how you decide on Northwestern.
Yeah, so Northwestern was they recruited me very well. Obviously, academics was a big thing for my parents because they came from a background where they both don't have degrees. So that was a big kind of accomplishment for them. Wow. It's for their kids to get there. My sister was at Northwestern University, which is really kind of where it struck the interest to be able to go there. Yeah. But quite honestly, it wasn't where I wanted to go. I went there because my parents wanted me to go there. And that was something that, a year into being at Northwestern, that we all sat down and had that conversation after one of our games, where I was crying and I'm like, this wasn't me. Yeah. We're here now, right? I'm here. I did what you guys said. I'm playing with my sister. I'm in this like great academic school and all this stuff. And it's just not me. This isn't me. And my parents actually apologized for it. And they said, look, we'll support whatever that next step looks like for you. So that's when I really started taking like agency over my life and my process and my decisions, because it was clear that I made that decision and it wasn't mine. And I ended up in a place where like at the end of the day, when you go into college or when you go on, like, you're the one that's getting up to do the work. Right. No longer, the kid that's being taken to school in the pickup line. You've got to get up and do the work every day. So you've got to love where you're at and you have to make that decision for yourself. Yeah.
So I think that's something that happens a lot, right? Is you have the people in your circle giving you feedback, giving you advice. And once again, your parents weren't doing it to put you on a wrong path, right? They thought it was in your best interest. But once again, there's that level of, if I'm in tune with what I really need, like I kind of know my own best interest. So talk about, I guess, taking that information from people that are close to you
Mhm.
and sifting through, all right, what's for me and what's for them to help you make the best choice?
Mm, that's a really great question. And a lot of it takes the time to like slow down and be mindful of, the commitments that you're making, the decisions that are ahead of you, the vision that you have for your life. And it's why I'm such a believer and advocate and pusher of having vision.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? What's on the inside of you? What's that vision, that thing that pulls at your heart, and when you think about it, it brings you joy? Like, what is that? And let's create like the feelings and the images and the clarity around what that will look like and feel like when you get there. So that's what I would suggest to anyone that's in that. Is this my thought? Is this me? Or is this the expectations others have of me? Is
Mm,
this just the environment that I've been in for so long that I'm conditioned to do things this way?
yeah.
And so if you slow down enough, like really give yourself the time and space to create the vision that you want for your life, aligned with your values, gifts, and experiences, you're off to the races to live in a life of fulfillment.
We are going to jump into that a little bit more in a bit, but let's get back to the story. So we're in Northwestern, and then we decide, hey, I'm going to head to the ACC and pick a different school. So talk about kind of that process of transferring and what led you there.
Yeah, so the transferring process, I knew I wanted to transfer. I really, the main thing was I wanted to have a college experience.
Mm.
I always ask myself, like, okay, at the end of these 4 years that I've been gifted of free education and to play my sport, what do I want to say I experienced, felt, did? Even if basketball doesn't go right, even if I don't
Yeah.
go pro, or I don't, make all the playing time or whatever it may be, what is that? And for me, it was always, I want to experience and have a college experience.
Mm.
I want to have friends. I want there to be like fun athletics. I want everyone to be excited about their alumni, like their school. And I loved like the local, like the state feel where you just had kids from all over the state just like coming to college. And it's a really unique time in everyone's life. College is just in
Yeah.
terms of the uniqueness of the combination of people and why they're there and what they're there to learn. So I ended up choosing Florida State University because it was closer to home and really liked the coaches. I went there and basketball was okay. It went okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. But my experience, I'm like such a proud Knoll. I had
Mm.
so much fun. I have such great relationships that still stand till today. And I really would not go anywhere else.
I love it. Well, and so let's talk about, some of the team accolades that do happen. You guys get to compete at a high level in the NCAA tournament. So
Mhm.
talk about some of those, fun team memories of getting to play there at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you're able to work with a team towards a goal, it's like there's nothing really like it. And I notice that more and more now that I'm out of athletics. It's like there's nothing like being on that team where every time you walk in the gym, you've got the goal, you know the direction you're going,
Yeah.
and you're just hoping that at the end of it, we all can get there together. I mean, it's truly, truly a special dynamic. But there was a lot of challenging times too, as you can imagine, a team full of 12 to 15 girls and trying to manage that emotional, mental, physical dynamic. We are wired differently than men. We have a different makeup that makes us extremely unique. But emotions are one of those things that make us amazing, but also make us difficult to work with one another when it comes to achieving a goal. So overall, it was just really cool to be able to get to that level of excellence with a team for a university and for the
Yeah.
young girls that are looking up to us and saying, man, can I do that? Can I be that? And it's like, yeah, you can.
Yes. So as you're, having that experience at Florida State, once again, you're doing well. And as you go to graduate, you get the opportunity to explore what it looks like to be a professional, basketball player. So talk about making that decision of, all right, do I, go this route, or do I take a normal job? Right.
Yeah. That's a really, really hard decision transition for every single athlete to make. Because there is nothing like athletics, and you've put so much time and energy and commitment into the game. And roughly, if you would say, if you make it to the college level, you've at least put, 17, 18 years into this game in hopes to get to this point.
Yeah.
And you can get to the point where you've reached kind of the top of the mountain and you're tired mentally, you're tired physically, you don't know if you want to keep going. But then there's all these voices that you were hearing when you were younger as you were chasing this dream, that this is the dream, you're here, don't give up on it now. But you're just depleted otherwise. So it was really, really difficult. And for those of the listeners that don't know, women, professional sports is a little bit different than men. I like to say that our college experience is our pro experience. And then we go pro, we kind of go backwards a little bit. So, while I was getting paid and it was good money, it was just something that I started to feel this pull that there's more.
Yeah.
There's more. There's like more to you, Morgan. There's more to life. This game is just an incredible vehicle that's got you here. And now you have the perspective to go live out your calling or go explore it. And I think that's kind of the pivotal step that says, okay, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'm going to take it and then let me go on this journey and on this ride. And I laugh because, some people think, okay, like the expectations for life after sports is like, it's just going to be like this. Like, okay, I got out, I got the job, I'm going to get promoted because I'm an athlete and I'm good. And you're just going to keep on this like very linear path.
Yeah.
And it's so the opposite. And it takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of unlearning a lot of things that athletics taught you. And, ultimately, like in that process, you're really becoming and refining truly who you are outside of the identity of being an athlete.
So let's dive into that. And once again, we're going to talk about it in the context of being an athlete, but really you can do this for anything that you've tied who you are to, right? So for athletes, especially ones that excel at a level that you have, right? Division I, playing professionally, there's a piece of you that says Morgan Jones is a basketball player, right? And all of a sudden you aren't a basketball player anymore, right? You're pursuing something else. So talk about going through that mental shift of, not taking that piece away, but just saying that's not entirely who I am. I'm more than just a basketball player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the identity of an athlete, it's very strong, right? Because your identity is shaped and formed by the things that you're validated and affirmed for.
Yeah.
So no matter what industry, it's not just basketball, it's coaching, it's finance, right? It's whatever industry you're in. When you start to get really good at it and people start to recognize you based on what you do, your identity starts to shape based on that. So it's a very, very intentional process to not allow yourself to be shaped by other people's, expectations, validations, affirmations of who you are, because they only see and know a small piece of you. So for me, in trying to really figure out like, who am I without this basketball, it started with that self-reflection journey. And it started for me going back to my creator and saying, okay, God, we started with you, right? I got lost in this whole basketball world. Bring me back. Who am I now?
Yeah.
And I think, everyone that goes through that like identity shift has to go back to him, has to go back to the divine power you believe in, because everything we go through in life is meant to shape us into our ultimate purpose and calling. And so anyone that says like, well, I'm just a basketball player and that's what I do. Well, no, it's a platform for you to use to actually shape your purpose. And your purpose may be like to go keep playing. But ultimately, like, how is what he's given you impacting others? If you can't have a clear vision of that, then you may not be in alignment with that.
That's really good. And so what would be your encouragement to someone? And once again, when you talk about, hey, they're tied to something, I mean, it could be a relationship, right? It could be who your friend circle is. I mean, a person can find their place with so many ways, but how would you encourage them? I mean, are there like tangible action steps opposed to just, all right, I'm now going to start thinking about this? What would be some tangible action items for someone to start navigating that?
Yeah. One of the things that tangibly you could do is start to journal your experiences, journal your day experiences, so that you can start to become aware of the things that are happening around you that are shaping your identity. And it's not to say like we're not saying that people telling you that you're great at something is like, you don't want that. You want to run away from it. No, that's telling. There's some truth in that. But it's being mindful that that's not my identity. This is what I experienced today. And like this, I have more to offer. And, you know, what I love to say is like, if you, as you're starting to journal, you'll start to find like themes within your journals of like things that made you really happy during the day, things that made you low, things that really sparked your interest, something that made you put your phone down and really pay attention to. And it's like, those are the things that lead to more of like your authentic self, like really, truly like what you desire and like how you operate in the highest alignment is when you journal and you start to find those patterns over time.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. Get yourself a journal.
Get your journal.
You don't even need anything formal, right? You can just write it down and you type it out, whatever you need to do.
Yep.
I love it. So yeah, as you can kind of hear, you know, Morgan has done some deep, you know, introspection of who she is. And so this leads to an opportunity post basketball where you say, well, gosh, maybe there are other people like me out there that need help with this as well. So talk about the, you know, athletes to visionaries, and just the whole idea and how that came to be.
Yes. So it all came to be through just my own journey of going through this, like you said, like I've gotten to this point, guys, everyone that's listening, I did not snap my fingers and get here. Trust me. A lot of like lonely nights and a lot of reflection. But obviously it was worth it. So as I got to kind of that other side of like really being able to look at my experience different, there's 3 steps that I went through that landed me to this type of perspective. And like the first one was like self-awareness and really developing a strong self-awareness. And then it was curiosity of like exploring other things, being curious about other people, their perspectives, their thoughts, as well as like actually exploring other interests. Yeah. And then it's service. I went out and then I began to serve those ideas that I was having. Yeah. So I would go and as I was starting that curiosity phase of things that I was learning, I then went and started to speak. And I would go into like my old high school. I just started off my old high school and said, hey, can I come speak to your class? Like, yeah, sure. Yeah. And I would go home and I would literally like write up this like workshop of just like all of these thoughts that like I just wanted these young women to know. Yeah. Like, I just want you to know that you're valuable, that you're loved, that you're important, that you matter. And I put that in a format where it turned into a workshop. Yeah. And before you know it, I started doing that. They kept like turning out really well. And then that just continued to lead me to like more speaking engagements. And then I ran an event and the event went amazing. So it really has all started and is led with service. And athletes to visionaries was a hashtag where how do you take the limiting beliefs behind being an athlete and how do you move that into a visionary, which is limitless? Yeah. Having original ideas about what your future can and will be like. And so, I started to serve that mission. And then now we've worked with thousands and thousands of athletes, both transitioning college athletes, pros and youth, and helping them believe who they are beyond the game.
Love it. So I want to ask a couple of pointed questions on what you said with the, first event and the first couple of speaking engagements. I think those can be nerve wracking, right? Because you don't know how they're going to go, right? After the fact, you can look back and say, oh man, that went well. But going into it, you just don't know. Are people even going to show up? And sometimes that fear or those thoughts prevent people from even taking the step, right? Mm-hmm. From even doing the first class talk, from even doing that first event. So talk about that for you, overcoming those thoughts, if you had them, or if somebody is having those, what they can do to overcome those thoughts.
Yeah. So first I will say for the tangible, like our go-getters that are listening to this and want to grab it and go with it, is build in your own accountability. You don't wait for someone else to like have to make you accountable to do something. Yeah. Like literally say, I am going to, do this event or do this workshop or whatever on this date, and put yourself out there for my event that I did. For instance, I got to, I think it was like 2018, New Year. I sat down, like was doing my goals, looking at my vision. And I'm like, I feel like I'm all over the place. Like I'm doing a lot. Yeah. How can I do one really strong thing this year and then look back and like keep building on that? And I said, let me host an actual large event for my community. And so I reached out to a school. Like first it was just a thought. And I reached out to the school and I told them, hey, I want to do this event. This is how many people, all the information. They wrote back and they said, yes, we're in, let's do it. Boom. I built in my own accountability. Now I put it out there. Someone came in and said, yes, now like I'm accountable to that. Right.
Yeah.
And so there was no looking left or right. It was, we got to get this done. And in doing that and staying hyper-focused on the goal, everything else starts to line in place.
Yeah.
Like you're just driven by making sure people get in that stands, making sure you have speakers, making sure, you know what I mean? Because you're not going to fail. You're not going to fail yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So to go back to like that belief and like that self-talk and stuff like that, I think it's really just, you know, doing your best to quiet the noise and focus on one goal. When we're focused on too much, we really get nothing done well. Set one goal for yourself for this, you know, if whenever this launches or it's 2022, what's one thing at the end of 2022 that you want to say you did and put your focus there.
That's really good. That is great advice. Yeah. I think it's Gary Keller wrote the book, The One Thing, right? So sometimes you just have to have that one thing that you can be ever present on. Now, the second thing I want to highlight that you talked about is the idea of service and serving others. And I think it's a bad word sometimes because there is some comparison that can happen, but perspective, I think, is probably the better way to look at it. And so many times, right, we get caught up in our own funnel or, you know, cyclone of things in our world. And it seems like, gosh, everything's going so bad in my world. And sometimes when you can go serve other people who need help, it can give perspective on things that, well, maybe my life isn't that bad, right? I had that profound moment when I was given the opportunity to help at a children's cancer institute. And I sit there and I was just having a bad day, right? I'm putting that in quotes, everyone. And I go in there and then there's, you know, a 6-year-old girl that says, hey, with a smile on. I'm sitting here like, I don't have a bad day. If she can figure out how to smile, I can figure out how to smile. So talk about, you know, service, serving others, and, you know, I guess once again, the ideas and things that can come from that.
Great. That's a great question. And kind of back to my last answer about kind of putting that accountability in and like trying to quiet the noise and stay focused. One thing that helped a lot too was like me always keeping my mind focused on the young women that would just be in those like in that seat that needed that message. And that's what I was serving.
Yeah.
The moment that I got caught in like, okay, how much should I charge? Am I going to get enough? Is this going to like focus on who it is you're serving? And like all of those other things around it start to like align authentically.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we do things the other way where we like focus on the money or like that. And then we lose track of just like the humans or the peoples or souls that we are speaking to, or we are trying to help. So, you know, overall, it's really important to serve. It makes me itch when I don't, because it's like you said, you lose that perspective of like, look, I'm blessed, I'm alive, I'm able to dream, I'm able to think, I'm able to get up every day and chase after something and help other people. I don't think there's any other feeling that fills you up more than really serving others in a way that's truly meaningful.
Love it. Now, a who knew in the moment, as I was learning your story, is a billboard for I think it's an energy drink, Bolt 24. Talk about seeing that billboard and then something in the future happening.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny you say that. And I don't, you know, and I don't know if your listeners are like on this space, but like I'm very much like an alignment person. I'm very much like put it out in the universe and go get it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and trusting, like you got to just trust some stuff. And so I remember having my event and saying, man, it'd be cool to have like a beverage sponsor for it. And I'm like, but I want one that like, it makes sense. Like it, not just someone that's going to send them something to drink, right? Again, thinking about the end consumer.
Yeah.
And when I saw their motto that came out, which was like fueling athletes like off the field, right? Like helping them be successful when they're not on the court. I'm like, oh, that sounds exactly kind of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that billboard, I was sitting with my friend, and I told her, I said, look, I keep seeing these signs everywhere about this drink. They are going to sponsor, they're going to be a part of our event in some capacity. And fast forward, it was like I was at the NBA finals, and I went into a panel discussion, and I happened to just sit down in there, and the global marketing director for Gatorade was up there. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I'm sitting down, I'm listening, and then the woman next to me just happened to be her assistant. And so we're talking or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. This is starting to connect.
Yeah.
So we leave the event, they walk out, they're out in the lobby, just hanging out, you know, being social. And there was this huge like pull in me of go introduce yourself, go be bold. What's the worst that could happen? They say no, you know, like that pull just pulls you. And I walked over to the table and I said, introduce myself. Hi, I'm Morgan. I know you don't know me, but I had I loved listening to you speak, and this is kind of what I do. And I would just, you know, love to see if we could figure something out and have you fuel our events. And she's like, oh, and so anyways, long story short, went there to there to there to there. And when I reached out to them and told them about the event, and they sent like almost 1,000 drinks or something. I still have stuff in my garage, and it's just so cool. It's just so cool. And so I guess the takeaway from that is like, you know, when there's something on the inside of you that like pulls you, like you gotta trust yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta be bold and put it out there and say, you know what? No, that's gonna happen. And then trust that you as an individual knows the work that it takes to every day get up and just move towards that direction. Don't get caught up in it coming in the next month or two, because it's all about timing. Just know that when you put it out into the universe and you say, look, this is what I want and this is why I want it, and it's true, it'll come at some point or another.
Yes, that's good. So as you're progressing in that realm, you also decide that, you know, there's these vision box ideas that I have, and, you know, having a vision board is something that's been impactful to you and many others. So talk about kind of how it came to be and where you're at now.
So the vision box was something that was born out of COVID.
Yeah.
19. So prior to COVID, we were doing those events, and it was going great. And then COVID happened and everyone had to shift. I think the whole world had to shift their business plan, their marketing ideas. And so for me, it was like, I'm teaching all these concepts in the events, right? And these just like empowering thoughts and beliefs. How can I get this to their front door?
Yeah.
Right. Like, let's say COVID doesn't live for another 4 years. And I still really can't do that many in-person events, but it's like, how can we get that to their door? And so I just put my head down, just like I did with my event. And I said, look, I'm going to have a box to launch by 2020, and it's going to get to people's doors and give them hope and vision for their future ahead. And so I did all this research, and I had a lot of time, clearly, a lot of trial and error. I packed every box. I designed every box. I figured out shipping. I just feel like I had to happen. And in doing that, right, in serving that idea that people during COVID need vision, right? I bought a certain amount of boxes. I go, okay, now I'm live. Everyone, hey world, I got these boxes. And believe it or not, it was crickets, right? Because you have to have a marketing strategy behind everything you're doing. But I was so focused on the product, the marketing came after. So all of a sudden I get this email from a representative from Google saying, hey, we're looking for ways to virtually connect our employees, and we'd really love to have the vision box be what we use virtually. Do you ship internationally? At that time, y'all, I didn't ship internationally. What? I don't know how to ship internationally besides put my address in. What goes into that? I don't know. Customs? Oh, okay. Right. So you know what I mean? But they were like, we want however many boxes you want, we want to buy the inventory. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I figured it out. And my box last 2022 was in Africa. It was in Egypt. And all of these Google employees came together. YouTube in particular came together. And they all went through the vision box and did it together and talked about their personal goals and their visions and like what they wanted personally out of their lives, because it helped them like interact in a more meaningful way. So I guess what kind of like the takeaway from that, from anyone that's listening that has like that idea or thought, is like, we really have everything we need within us. Like, we've got the drive, we can figure it out on the internet. With enough focus and drive, like within us, we have everything we need. So whatever that idea, that thought that you want to act on and move forward with, know like you have what you need on the inside of you.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's such a cool story, and where it led to. Now, the thought I had earlier as you were talking about, helping people see that it's more than just, what you're getting affirmations from others on. And I think it's when you really, break it down, what helped you get to that point you were receiving affirmations. And so as I listened to you talk and I listened to you talk about all the things you've been able to accomplish, I sit here and think, well, a intense work ethic, right? Commitment to excellence of I can perform at the highest level, being willing to sacrifice, do things others won't. And inevitably, those are the things that helped you become good at basketball, but it's also the things that have helped you become good at all these other, ventures you're on now. So it's really saying, well, I'm not a basketball player. I'm all these things that help me become good at basketball. And I think that's something that we can really miss is we're only focused on what we get the affirmations for, but it's all the phenomenal characteristics we have that allow us to be good at that specific event.
That's a good point. Cause it's like, no one comes up to you and goes, like, I really was watching your game today and you just, man, you're just a hard worker. You're just like really smart. Like they go straight to the man, you had 20 points, man, that sale you just hit, man, that brought us to the next level, and then you're right. It's listening for more of those, like those intrinsic values of like hard work and like just determination and things like that, that maybe we could grab onto a little bit more than the actual like tangible outcome. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Morgan, I appreciate your story and sharing all the pivotal moments. I guess what is next? What are we working on? What are, your 2022, 2023 things that you're working on?
Yeah, so we are about to relaunch the Vision Box. So right now it's a seasonal product. Yeah. So we are gearing up for a larger Google order to get that out to them.
Love it.
As well as some organizations have come in place. So that's really what I'm focused on right now. In the future and next year, that's something that I sit down in 2022 and look at and say, where do I want to put my focus, my time in? More? Is it more into the Vision Box? Is it more into, my college program? Or is it something completely different, So right now it's full focus on the Vision Box, taking care of myself, taking care of my family. Because without that, it's nothing moves forward. So.
You bet. Well, once again, I appreciate you sharing your pivotal moments. I can't wait to stay connected. And, in another 3 years, we'll have to have you on again and see how big the business is growing and what new businesses are coming your way as well.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, you too.